Greetings sailors and welcome to a last patch replay which I recorded not long before the patch hit because my plan to get a good Florida game to show that off and talk about that a bit hasn't really worked out so far, in that literally 100% of the games I played today, and I think I played for about 3 hours in the Florida before I finally gave up, were one-sided steamroll wins or losses, neither of which were particularly good at showing off the ship in any way or form. So instead, here's a random battleship game from last patch. It's a premium battleship, which is kind of not really relevant. I don't know. There's a bit of a tenuous link to the Florida at best. That yes, they're both premium battleships, but that's about it as far as it goes. So yeah, this is basically the premium cat meowing in the background noises. Hello Sam, you're interrupting. This is the premium tier 9, which I've forgotten the name of now. It's the Sovetskaya... oh, I've even forgotten how to pronounce this one. Sovetskaya Rossiya, something like that. I forget what the regular tier 9 is called, but the only real differences between them are this has better Sigma and better accuracy. So overall it's a more consistent hitter, although it's only 0.1 Sigma, so it's nothing huge. But it pays for that with a longer turret traverse, worse AA and fewer hit points. I think it still fits the pattern of closer range, better accuracy though. Wow, Sam is being very persistent. I don't know how much this is being picked up by the... This has not really been a problem up until now. I mean, he interrupts when I'm doing live streaming, but with videos I've managed to avoid it, but apparently this one's going to be the exception. Anyway, so, yeah, it's basically kind of like what they did with the Baji and the Izumo, in that it's very broadly the same, but there are some kind of minor differences between the two. Also, it's completely fake. It's an Azur Lane ship and it has an Azur Lane camo, so that's a difference as well. So there's Epicenter, obviously, and as this is a last patch game, it's all recorded at 30 FPS and still some FPS problems. This new patch, 9.9, has introduced a whole new set of FPS problems. There's a lot of people getting issues when ships are being rendered. It for some reason is causing a big FPS drops, and still other people are having big issues with big ping spikes. I think particularly I've seen that on, well, both NA and EU CCs have talked about it, but I don't know if it's been more NA folks. But yeah, so there's something going on with current patch. I don't know if I'm going to be able to record current patch replays at back up at 50 or even 60. But we'll see. We'll see when I get to actually trying one of those. So far it's mostly been long-range gunnery. We have taken the middle 2 rings off the enemy team though, and I'm at the moment just kind of circling, looking for opportunistic shots. Now I've taken 1 torpedo already, which is not so great, but I let it flood because these days flooding, an individual flooding, is not such a big deal. I wasn't in imminent danger of taking any more. Yes, hello Sam, I know you're there. He's behind me on the chair now. And I know that the destroyer that probably was responsible is that Östergötland, who's now there, being a bit forced back on that flank by the Stalingrad that's pressed up to the island. What do you want? He's being a real fusspot right now. Am I interrupting your beauty sleep, Sam? Is that the problem right now? Is that not okay? Are you having just a general moan about that? He's now standing behind the microphone. Yes, hello Sam. So, yeah, looking for opportunistic shots and broadside pommern is quite nice, although I didn't give enough lead there. That's definitely, this has been remarked on by other people and patrons and whatnot. I'm not particularly consistent. I need time to dial in my shots on given ships. And I do tend to get better as matches progress, but even on just some days, I noticeably am aiming worse than other days. And things like consistently playing the same ship over and over does certainly help, because from battle to battle you're then used to the gun characteristics. But if you jump around a lot like I tend to do, obviously that's less of a factor. So yeah, I do tend to spend probably more time than a better player than me just dialing it. Don't rub against the microphone. No, Sam, you're really not helping right now. I have no idea how this is going to turn out. Feline assisted commentary. I have still got a webcam on order for streaming, so there will be. I don't know how many. I'm assuming some people at least will already know of this plan, but I know more people watch my videos than watch me stream. So yeah, the plan is I'm going to have a webcam that will show him on his cat bed, which is quite near the computer. But at the moment, what with coronavirus, everybody's buying webcams for work purposes, and so it's been delayed twice so far. In theory, it's later in October it will arrive, but it might get delayed again, so who knows. Anyway, so continuing to plug away at targets as they present themselves. That Yoshino may well have dropped torps, but I'm hopefully going to be in a position where that won't be a problem too much longer. Heck, with the torpedo I said earlier with Östergötland, it might actually have been a Yoshino torpedo. I wasn't properly paying attention at that point. I was being distracted by a cat, helpfully. So helpfully. So yeah, I've decided to be a little more aggressive. We do have the middle blocked, and the middle ring is giving us some points, but we're not that far ahead. We're actually down on ships at the moment, though not by a lot. We've killed one of theirs, they killed 3 of ours, but it's 4 now. It's actually starting to get away from us a little bit, but in terms of points, we've kept it relatively even. But they've been more aggressive on the other flank, and I guess I don't know if we're being more aggressive on this flank because we have kind of roughly equal forces, but the other flank is looking a bit slippery right now. Now, I managed to kill that Yoshino, which is useful in terms of not getting any more randomly appearing 20-kilometer torps, but there is still Östergötland, and there are still another pair of battleships to deal with there. And the middle is now being recaptured by the enemy team, so that's not so good. I'm trying very hard not to be distracted by the fact he's literally sat there on the computer desk next to me licking his bum right now. Sam, thank you so much for that. That's what I needed. Cats. Why did I get a cat again? Who decided this was a good idea? I don't know. Anyway, so I'm being a little bit cautious of the Östergötland, but I know they can't hurt me that severely unless they land a lot of torpedoes at once and then subsequently land even more torpedoes, because it's that rapidity of reload that is the dangerous part. But lo and behold, we have a radar from the Stalingrad, which tells me exactly where the Östergötland is. Well, the torpedoes were kind of a giveaway as well, but unfortunately, I mean, they took a bit of a hammering coming out from round behind that island, and so now they're dead, and this is starting to not look that good, even though we are still ahead on points. It's just we've lost more ships than they have, so we're going to have to really try and pick up the pace, and I'm starting to get a bit more heavily targeted now, so rather than just keep rushing forwards, I'm slowing my speed a bit and trusting my front armor will do the business against those two, the Pommern and the Iowa, because I do at least have a very tanky bow. But there's now an Östergötland and potentially unpleasant Minotaur to deal with. Minotaur, especially if they smoke up, I'm not going to enjoy that too much. And they've just killed our Halland, which was the guy that was blocking the middle as well. Now, there is a question as maybe, because Halland was spotted, maybe the Minotaur is a radar Minotaur? We haven't seen them smoke yet, but we'll see if they actually do or not. But we're now close enough to this Minotaur that the tasty dispersion starts to kick in. And so, because they were apparently kind of ignoring my presence, they gave me a lovely broadside to work with, and that was the black right there. So, that's great. But the downside is I've now taken a bunch of Gotland torps, which individually weren't that damaging, but it's still heavy damage, so it limits how much I can get back. There's battleships firing at me, they're recapping the middle, and overall my health is not looking so good. But in terms of points, we're still somehow just keeping ahead, because they've all pushed into the middle, and so now we're getting the outer ring as well as keeping that middle ring. Sovetskaya, there's the one I couldn't remember the name of. It's not that different from Sovetskaya Rossiya, but apparently my brain was just like, nope, can't remember that right now. Yeah, I know, Sam, it's very silly, that's how my brain works. So, I don't want to be now coming around that broadside to potentially multiple different battleships, so I'm using the opportunity to angle myself a bit and hopefully then be able to be angled away from the Sovetskaya Rossiya as well. Well, that's when the Gotland pops up behind me, although I do manage a nice cheeky lovely shot against the Z46, netting me a third kill. The Pommer's turned around and is now being a bit more aggressive, but my more immediate concern is the Sovetskaya, and I'm increasing my angle against them, even though that does potentially limit my chance with the front turrets to hit them. But as they're focused on the Allied Iowa, I have been able to keep sufficient angle to keep firing away. But they're also a bit angled themselves, so yeah, I can't hit them particularly effectively right now, and they're now... I can't tell if they're just switching their focus back and forth, but it looks like they were looking at me for a moment, and then, well, then they decide to unangle, and they're definitely not paying any attention to me at the moment, and so that happens. Yeah, I don't really know why they did that. Both the Minotaur and that Sovetskaya Rossiya just kind of like, yeah, no, it's fine, I'm just going to give broadside to this Soviet battleship at fairly close range. That can't possibly go wrong. So with this latest series of kills, and we've had some action going on the other flank, which has just culminated with the last two ships ramming each other, that just leaves this little trio of ships here. It's the last of the enemy team, and we're now very firmly in the lead. So despite it looking a bit dicey throughout points of this game in terms of the numbers, we've just managed to keep sufficient cap control and keep a pace with the kills enough that it never looked that bad with the actual victory points. But you can get situations where it goes the other way, where you are seemingly doing okay with the victory points, but a bunch of people die at once, and then what looked like a fairly comfortable win suddenly becomes a loss. But fortunately that wasn't this game. You wouldn't probably be seeing this as a thing I recorded if it was that sort of game. Well, I didn't even have games like that today. Like I said, they were just complete one-sided brothel stomps, whether they were wins or losses. But I'll keep trying with the Florida. I do want to give it a bit of a rundown. I mean, it's certainly a much more attractive prospect than the California. That goes without a doubt. Yeah, it's got one less turret, but so much more. Just overall, the just usability of it is so much nicer. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So, I haven't actually used any of the damage control parties yet, so I might as well do that. At least I don't think I have. Or have I? Did I use one for flooding earlier? I may have done. So that is the last battleship done, and a Kraken. Which is one of the reasons why I saved this. Don't get Krakens that often. And that just leaves Gotland, and I've got some HE loaded for them, but that's not going to be quite the kill there. That noise, by the way, is Sam deconstructing a cardboard box. I don't know if that's being picked up at all. That should be audible, though. I gave him a cardboard box to sit in, and he does sit in it occasionally, but more often he likes to sit and tear bits off it, because cats. So, pretty respectable game overall, 5 kills. just shy of 2400 base XP. The Iowa and the Stalingrad there did pretty well as well. The surviving Edinburgh way down the bottom, still 1200, you know, everybody had at least 1000, in fact 1200 base XP's worth of contribution to this game. But I certainly had a couple of gifts in this one as well. The Minotaur and the Sovetskaya just giving me a broadside was particularly nice, and taking both those ships out at that point. You know, if they'd played a bit smarter, the Sovetskaya especially could have been a pain. I suspect that must have been a radar Minotaur, though. It would explain how the Halland got picked up and then picked off, and why the Minotaur wasn't then trying to smoke themselves protectively. So as this is a previous patch replay, I don't have any kind of little post thing to go at the end here, sadly, but yeah, anyway, like I say, I will try and get the Florida done relatively soon, but I've also got 2 other recorded bits of footage, one that's mine and one from Patreon to get through, and hopefully my internet issues that prevented me from streaming for the last couple of days will be fixed soon as well. The speeds are about a third what they should be, which isn't so good for streaming purposes, or even downloading the patch was a bit of a pain. It took way longer than it should have. But that's by the by. Hopefully that will be fixed soon, and I can get back to putting up some highlights as well. So that's it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and if you did, you can do all the usual things down underneath it. And of course, as always, stay tuned for more.